This is the 86 Podcast, where we're talking everything hospitality with your host, Richard White. All right, let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the 86 Podcast with me, your host, Richard White. Oh, man, today we got Chef David Franklin with us. Oh, I can't wait to get into today's episode. First off, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping and say thank you to the great response received, especially from our sponsors, about last week's episode where we had the restaurant guy, Jay Ashton, on. We had a great conversation around dynamic pricing, a lot of love, a lot of feedback. That's great. You can catch it on Spotify and YouTube. And at this point, I really want to say a great thanks to Freeman Signature Brokers for sponsoring these 5 first episodes of the 86 Podcast. I'm going to give them a shout out right here. Freeman Signature is Canada's first and only true national food service focused sales and marketing agency. With over 95 years of experience representing top quality brand name products, their dynamic team will meet and exceed your expectations. All right, and we're back. Today, I am so proud to have with me Chef David Franklin. Hey, David, how you doing?
I'm doing great tonight, Richard. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. For those of you who don't know who we are, David and I met and started our careers together at Cisco Peterborough, Strano Food Services, all way back in the early of the 2000s.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you here. You've had a remarkable career since then, and we remained friends for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you some questions about your name.
Yeah, it's David.
Because it's David. So I was online and I was getting ready to promote this out, and I clicked your LinkedIn bio, and it copied an alphabet soup after your last name. So I'm going to read out some letters, and you're going to tell me what the hell does this mean?
Okay, sure.
And in truth and transparency, I know what one of them means because it's a very common one, but let's just go through it. Okay, so Chef David Franklin, HS.
That is Honor Society. So I was a proud inductee and member of the Canadian Culinary Federation Honor Society.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one is CCC, and if I'm not mistaken, this is Certified Chef de Cuisine. Am I right?
Yeah. Canadian Chef de Cuisine or Certified Chef de Cuisine. That's right.
When did you get that?
I have been Chef de Cuisine since 2009. And at that time, I don't know what the current number is, but at that point in time, there was less than 1,000 chefs in Canada, living, dead, or retired, that had attained that level of mastery in their profession and achieved that designation through the Canadian Culinary Institute.
Okay, so that begs a question. For all those Red Seal chefs out there and apprentices,
yes.
Why would one get a CCC?
Well, you see a lot of people that roll with that's the last 3 letters at my name is RSE, is Red Seal endorsed. So that means I am a journeyman cook, or have achieved the level of journeyman cook. There is no such thing as a Red Seal chef. So forgive me if that's what you do out there to our magical, mystical, loving audience. You are a journeyman cook. Stop calling yourself a chef. Now, chef in kitchens is an honorary title, and most definitely there are a lot of people that may not even have a formal education. They might not have gone to college to become a chef, a chief in the kitchen. That's the chef is referring to the French word of chief, and that's the boss. And in a lot of kitchens, there's the head person, and that's often referred to as an honorary title of chef. But I got sidetracked there. I had to get on my soapbox for a second there. But the original question was,
why would you get a CCC?
Why? Exactly. So why go to the moon? Why achieve more? Why risk of yourself and be judged by your peers? It's a challenging couple of years. There's additional education after you've been a Red Seal journeyman, after you've been in that role for a minimum of 5 years, and been an executive chef or a head chef in an operation for a minimum of 3, you go and take your advanced food handler certification, safe food handlers for certification, and some additional training and classes. There's a couple of places that do it virtually in Canada. And then there's a couple of places that do it in person. And then there's a 3-day exam that follows that.
Can you give me an example of one of those questions that a regular RSE might not be able to answer so easily?
Well, it's not so much that, Richard. Like so there's 4 classes that you take. One is kitchen management. One is human resources for food service managers. There's nutrition and menu planning.
Okay.
So then once you're successful at the theoretical part of the exam, then the first day of your practical is writing a menu, and there's certain criteria that you have to follow within that menu. The meal sells for $120. It is to have a 32% food cost. The menu has to be written intelligently. It's a 5-course menu.
Wow.
You're only allowed to use cream. Now this was very European at the time. It has since been updated, but when I went through, you're only allowed to use cream in no more than 2 courses. Your main course had to show 3 distinct techniques. One of them which had to be a braise. You had to do a clarification of a consomme. You had to debone fish, and you had to debone red meat or poultry. Your dessert had to be a base with a filling and a garnish and a sauce, and it also needed to include chocolate work or sugar work. So that like there's and all of this had to be included in this day one of the hands-on, and then if you succeed in that package, if everything checks all the boxes, it was written correctly, your food costs worked out, your requisition was appropriate, all of that, then you get to go and cook the thing. You actually prepare the menu that you've written with an assistant. So you take an assistant with you, so somebody that should be like a minimum of a class 2 cook or a second-year apprentice.
Yeah.
Your
choice?
Well, you get to take them with you, but you don't get to work with the person you brought.
So it's like a communal pile of cooks.
That's right. So you've got a bunch of cook 2s or a minimum of second-year apprentice.
Okay.
And then how you interact and engage that young person, that young culinarian in the kitchen. So how you manage that person is also evaluated and adjudicated.
So this is serious.
It's a big step, and unfortunately, there isn't. It's not a level measure in other countries. While there is a certified chef de cuisine and a part of the American Culinary Federation, it's not the same level. It's not the same program. A certified chef de cuisine is just a step up above a certified culinarian or a CC in the States. So the process is a little bit different. It aligns more with certified executive chef, which is the next 3 letters in my name. CEC is a certified executive chef, and that's a designation from the American Culinary Federation.
So now this begs a strange question for me. Full transparency for those watching it, because I use the word chef a lot, especially when I'm talking about myself. Now, am I a journeyman cook? No, but I have run so many kitchens that I have taken the title of chef in that context
as an honorary title. 100%, yeah,
as an honorary title for sure.
You're a great cook.
Thank you. I hope so after all these years. And I've learned a lot over the years. So I'm looking at this, but there's something missing though, because I've known each other for a long time. But aren't you a sommelier? Is there no letters for sommelier?
If I successfully passed the exams, there would be.
Oh, so you're still in progress.
Yeah, that'd be an SOM. If I was certified, either there's a couple of different guilds. The Wine Guild of Canada is one of them. I did take the program. I did take the exam, but you need a minimum of 70% as a pass.
Ah,
And when I did the exam, I got 68.
no.
Yeah, I was
Oh
close.
my, missed by 2 cents.
I
My
was
goodness.
close, man.
You gonna retake it?
I would
Or you
love
moved
to
on?
retake it. There hasn't been uh, uh, um, there hasn't been a need because my career after that didn't really go in that direction. Because after I left working in kitchens, while I still enjoy wine and other assorted beverages, a sommelier also would somebody that would be well skilled in making zero alcohol cocktails would have some training
Yeah,
there, as well as have a firm understanding of coffee and tea. Um, and other beverages. Sommelier isn't just wine; it is a beverage
yeah,
steward. And certainly there's been a massive amount of growth in zero cocktails, and I quite enjoy
huge.
a lot of those too because I don't always want a glass of water. And a pop doesn't quite cut it if you're having a nice meal or a get together or something like that. So there's a lot of mixologists that are really enjoying zero alcohol cocktail production that's out there, and certainly worthy of seeking them out.
Yeah, I agree. I did start down that path a long time ago to become a sommelier, and I knew I was never going to give it the commitment it needed because I knew it was very difficult.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting learning about the other things other than wine as well too. I became a barista along the way and a few other things, but that's fantastic. Well, that's an impressive resume, if I may throw another French word around for everybody. Um, of somebody in the industry. Oh, that's fantastic. You once told me that because you were going to be a corporate chef, that you felt like the CCC designation was kind of like the minimum level requirement to call yourself a corporate chef. Do you still feel that way?
I still 100% still do. I think that's worthy. If I have other industry people coming into my kitchen, I always felt that was important. I did it for myself. I mean, it didn't change my paycheck. I know a lot of people that have gone to that level of education and training and challenged the exams, and it's more of a personal statement in Canada, because if you went to the Board of Trades, a cook or a chef, it's a voluntary domestic trade. There's no
Yeah.
prerequisite to have any kind of training for food service in Canada. There could be mandates by the group of restaurants, or if
Yeah.
you're
The
working in
policy.
retirement care or working for the government, and youth care or something like that. The job may require it, but it's not a standard across our country as it is in other countries. It's not necessarily considered a noble career. I guess in the '60s when the Board of Trade was getting formed, the chefs were all working that day and missed their vote.
Mm. Fair set. Oh man, but you're so much more than just 9,000 letters after your name. Something I see you post a lot on social media, and this is something you and I really never really discussed, and I'm really keen to learn a little bit here. Is are you the council commissioner for Scouts Canada?
I have been for a particular council, so Southwestern Ontario. This is
Okay.
going back a couple of years. I've been involved in scouting. I grew up in Scouts. Both my parents were
Okay.
Scouters. My brother, his son, my whole family's been involved in scouting, and I've been a member since 1977.
Wow. I was well, was I a scout? Hopefully my older brother watches this and reminds me. I know he was a scout because I remember going to meetings. And I know I went to I think it was Beavers. It
Yeah,
was Beavers, right? I know I did that. I don't know how far I went. I might not have become an actual scout, but I remember going on Jamboree. Are they big?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how
Can
big?
get
Like how
big.
many? How big have you been? Like what's the biggest Jamboree you've been to?
So last summer I was at the World Scout Jamboree. That was in South Korea. And there was
Okay.
about 47,000 kids and volunteers and staff from about 170 different countries. So that's the biggie. That's about as big as it gets.
That's I knew it was big. I didn't know.
Yeah, scouting's still the largest outdoor youth leadership program, and the membership is in the millions. I couldn't tell you how big it is actually off the top of my head, but it's in the millions.
I remember going to Jamboree, and I remember shouting a chant that's something to do with like there ain't no flies on us. There ain't no flies on us. Is that still a thing?
That's still
is
a
that
thing.
Just like 1977 still there? It's still a thing.
To see who could chant or shout louder than the other.
The loudest,
yeah. There's a lot of fooling around. There's a lot of good time. A lot of times it's just letting kids be kids, and doing activities outside that gets them a better understanding, a better grounding of mankind's relationship with the outdoors, and how to be better stewards of the earth and of each other. I think that's one of the reasons why I've stuck with the program and why I give back. I owe my career to scouting. I learned how to cook when I was in Cubs and Scouts. And at that time, growing up, my mom was sick. She had cancer, and I helped out around the house. And as I got to go to different jamborees and went to an international camp in Texas, there was about 25 different countries that was at that particular event. And I think that was really, like, aside from like restaurant food and eating family food, that was the first time I was really exposed to like international food that was made by people for people, like as opposed to going out to restaurants. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
So when I got to try Vietnamese food and Japanese food made by like the kids and the scouters for everybody else there, I also got to try barbecue for the first time, and that's been an obsession really ever since. Is good old Southern American barbecue. Really enjoyed that, but I really got a handle on food, and then that became my job in high school. I worked at a local pizzeria, worked in an Olive Garden going through college. Now I didn't study at the first time around to be in cooking or food service or hospitality. I was originally going to be an architect. That was my first career path until
it's quite the pivot.
Well, in the 90s, they were still teaching you how to use a pencil and paper when the industry had converted to computers and CAD systems. And unfortunately, I was basically trying to learn how to repair rotary telephones when everybody had an iPhone. What are we on, a 16 or a 15 or something like that now? So anyway, I dropped out of college, but I'd always cooked in high school and college. And went back into a resort property and started my apprenticeship, and the cooking that I'd done had kind of propelled me in that, and I always volunteered for extra events. If there was a wine event that was going on, or if there was some social impact, helping people with food insecurity and stuff like that, because I was blessed with people that supported me. I felt it was my role, my job, to help other people and give back. I learned, so I need to share that with others, and I've kind of carried that all the way through my career. And I taught for a little while at college, but certainly mentoring apprentices or training people in the test kitchens at where we work together. And now I volunteer with Skills Ontario, Skills Canada for high school and college culinary students. And at the same time, I'm working on my my intercontinental judges certification through World Chefs. So I can try and coach and mentor other people to judge at competitions.
Now, this is in Peterborough, right? Because this is where I met you. Was in Peterborough. Were you living in Peterborough when we met?
At the time, yeah.
Okay. That's terrific. when I posted on LinkedIn and said, you're kind of a big deal, you are kind of a big deal in the food service industry. And I love that about you and the way that you give back. Um, Another thing, your HS, so your Culinary Federation work, again, another huge part of the industry and a huge part of your life. Like
Yeah.
what do you do there? Are you the treasurer still?
Currently, I'm treasurer. I got 1 year left to go in that role on the national board, and I'm currently president of my local branch in London, Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does the Culinary Federation do for those people who don't know?
Well, primarily at the heart of it, it is as an organization built for networking and education. I think that those are the two primary pillars that the organization stands on. Is to raise the bar for others and help them succeed along their career. I think if I hadn't have connected with the Culinary Federation earlier on in my career, I'd probably still be working on a line in a restaurant, probably in and around Peterborough. I don't
So
think I would
who
have
should
really
join? Like,
progressed because I didn't know what else was out there. I hadn't heard of culinary competitions. I didn't know much about Skills Ontario and trying to do the Escoffier Society or Culinary Federation branch in Toronto had a hot competition honoring one of their past members, Tony Roldan, and I competed in that as an apprentice and just got me connected with other people. I'm confident that doing that got me my job at the Royal York Hotel, and I really enjoyed working there. I made a great number of friends there, and
yeah.
we lost touch, but a lot of them I'm getting reconnected with now, which is super fantastic. Just try to shake somebody's hand, and say, so what you been doing for the last 20 years? It's cool, but I feel like I've done enough, and as a person, as a human, as a steward of others, I've always tried to live that golden rule: do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself, and I'm always very, very pleased when somebody opens me with welcome arms, say like, man, I missed
Yeah.
you.
I can
It feels good.
So who should join the Culinary Federation? Like, is it just for chefs, or is it for people like me in the
It
industry? Is
is.
it
It
for
is for
people?
industry people. So certainly there is national members. There are young chef members. So somebody that's maybe been in the industry less than 8 years, that may not necessarily have done a formal apprenticeship or gone to college yet. They may just be exploring it. So there's a young chef category. There's also a foodie category. So anybody anybody can join.
Okay, so there's different types
Yeah,
of
different
memberships.
types of membership, and of course we welcome pastry chefs. There's the same as a national member. If pastry chefs want to join, we welcome them, and of course our armed forces. There's a special rate for those that serve our country, and still want to be connected in a food minded way. We always welcome our current armed forces people or our veterans.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
love that.
we try very hard to be open armed and welcoming and inclusive.
Mhm.
That's something that we strive for. I know the perception may be that it's a lot of older white guys, but we're really trying hard to try and break that image, and I think we try and include as like there's a number of women on our national board. There's a lot of women chefs that are presidents of our branches, and
Yeah.
certainly my dear friend Shona Chalmers, that's an instructor at Humber College. She's currently on a presidium for the next electoral group for the World Chefs. So that'll be voted on in Singapore this October. And a past member and past president of the Culinary Federation, Cornelia Volino, is is currently running that Presidium. So World Chefs is a little different. When you vote for the president, you get their
Yeah.
whole team. It's not that you vote for each
Oh, I see.
individual.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, you get that whole sort of governing body, and Cornelia has been involved with World Chefs for a number of years, and Shona's been one of their champions for sustainability in food service. She teaches a great program on that topic specifically at Humber College, and it really enriches the students to understand what's going to happen with our food if we keep eating the way we do and keep cooking the way we do.
I can't agree with you more, Chef. Like we're in the middle of food show season here. I just got back last night from Vancouver. I actually did a retail show, and I've done several food service shows this season, as I typically do, and I got another one next week in St. John's. Geez, I'm looking forward to that. But I'll tell you, I've had conversations that the diversity of the cuisine and of the cooks in this country is not represented anywhere in our industry from our side, the food manufacturing, food representation chefs. Like it's an incredibly white group, mostly men. There are women out there, obviously, but I'm telling you, it's almost saddening to see that we're making decisions for a population that we don't represent, and it frustrates me. In local politics is what I'm involved with that too, and having politicians, reflect the electorate would be fantastic too. It's an incredible system of diversity that we lack in Canada. Now you did a minute ago. You talked about a food competition. Now it wasn't that long ago. I was looking at one of your posts on, I think it was on Facebook, and you had done a global street food competition, and you made something called hand pies. Is this?
Yep. I'm sure there's lots of different language that's out there. If you think of like in South American or Mexican, like to have an empanada.
Okay. Now that makes sense
Yeah.
to me. It's a new designation.
Yeah.
I was like I get what it means, but I'm like, I've never heard that term before until I read it on your update.
Sure. Well, I just try and think of like if I'm not doing something that's a traditional dish of a particular cuisine or culture, like what else would you call it? You call it like
generic term,
meat tart.
In consumer goods, classifications are an important part of what we do, and the tobacco industry has come out with like these like mouth these. It's not chew. It's not like tobacco you chew on, but it's like maybe a packet of something that you chew on, like essentially like a fortified tea bag in your mouth, and they had to come up with a classification for it, and the term they've come up with is modern oral.
Can you say that out loud? I think we need to check your rating of your show.
Maybe the TikTok and YouTube censors are going to pull that one back. But yeah, I was just like, wow, who comes up with these names?
Modern oral.
So what did you make? So what street pie did you make?
So that was a competition sponsored by Nestle, Nestle Food Service, and they've got a great product that is a fire roasted poblano pepper concentrate.
Flavor enhancer, yeah.
Flavor enhancer. So it's basically you open up this little 1 pound tub. You know it. You've seen it before. It's a little 1 pound tub, frozen, and it's just a paste of roasted peppers and other seasonings. There's garlic in there and a little bit of oil to bind it. And they wanted to relaunch this product. They came out with it a little while ago, and I don't think it reached the market attention that it deserved. It's fabulous stuff. So if you just really want that round sort of earthy green Latin Spanish kind of flavor to go and add something to it, you just drop a spoonful of that and away you go. So I was doing I braised chicken in heavy cream with some of this poblano paste, and then shredded all the chicken and had some Chihuahua cheese, some Mexican cheese. It's kind of like Monterey Jack. No Chihuahuas were harmed in the production of that cheese. You just hold them up, and that's they beat their little feet to stir it up. No. I served it with I used some I did an avocado crema and put a little bit of poblano paste in that, and same for doing my own pico, a little salsa to serve on side, and that was the dish. That was for the Canadian Culinary Federation members. That gets you some bragging rights. That gets you your flight and accommodation and registration for our conference that's coming up the end of May in Edmonton, and I'm sure there's some other stuff that goes along with it too. But it's great to support. Nestle's been a great partner of the federation, and their corporate chef Rick Secco, super human being, love him to pieces, and he gets the federation involved with his product lineup, and that ends up being like a good relationship. They've got a product, they need to get it out to their audience, so they get it in the hands of their audience to go and reach a broader audience, and then challenge us a little bit at the same time too, which is always fun. A little healthy competition amongst friends is always it's always great.
I used to have a cooking show on the SVK network and called Food Service versus TikTok. We used to take the TikTok trend of the day and see if we could turn it into a restaurant item. And I'd reached out to Rick Secco at Nestle and said, "Hey, I'd love to use some of your products there. What have you got for me?" And he sent me one of all of those flavor enhancers, the roasted garlic, the poblano. Like I got them.
Oh, the roasted garlic's one of my favorites.
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna. Steve McGoey, the former executive chef of the Keg, is going to be on the show coming up, and we're going to talk about this. Maybe I'll talk to him about this, but I heard a rumor that they used that roasted garlic in their like bagged mashed potato mix to make it their own. Anyways, great products and great flavor enhancers. If you haven't seen what ham pies can look like, go to Chef David Franklin's Facebook and scroll down to his post about that presentation. Would survive a posting on Rude Chefs. It would definitely.
That's up there. Our Instagram. I think my handle is Chef David Franklin 1.
I'd definitely check it out.
Yeah.
It was a very inspiring one. You just poured yourself a drink.
I did.
Now, one other thing I know about you, like most of us chefs, and I use that word honorarily.
Yes.
You like a good scotch. You like a good whiskey.
I do. Well, that's my family background. My family's clan is McGuffey or McPhee, and my dad. I'm a first generation Canadian. My father's family came from Glasgow in the 50s. My grandfather was an armature winder for the GE, and there's I've got some pictures of him. At the time, it was the world's largest hydroelectric dam in the Congo in South Africa, in Africa, and he's just this little person in this great big wheel, and that's what he did was an armature winder, and that's why he came to Canada after the war, to have a better life, and yeah, so my dad was a Glaswegian, and I often go to Highland, the Scottish festivals and Highland Games, and we used to go a couple of times to the Cayley, the Friday night kitchen party in the Coburg Games, and some local chefs we get together and do Scotch pairing with food. That was a blast.
Well, I'm gonna ask you only one more question, but before I ask you the question, shall we pour a wee dram?
We should pour a dram. I've got just because this was handy and upstairs. I do have a larger one downstairs. I swear
that's a wee.
I know I'm Scottish, but I'm not as frugal as some. But this is one of my favorites is the Singleton. It's a 12-year-old.
I'm just going to show the bottle because there is not a chance in all of anything that I'm going to pronounce that well. My twin brother Marcus now, because he gave me the bottle, he's going to be able to pronounce that spectacularly. But we'll just call this the classic laddie.
That's Brook Laddie.
Brook Laddie, thank you.
Brook Laddie.
All said. This is an unpeated Islay single malt.
Ooh.
And this one is 50%, 100 proof.
Ooh, whew. Spicy. So that's an that's an unpeated Islay, and the Islay malts are typically known for having their grain roasted over peat, and that's what always gives it that funky, briny, seaweedy.
Yeah.
That's a nice color.
It is a nice color. It come together. Oh, look at the color on that. That's a nice one. So I've got to ask you. Oh, thank you, Marcus White. That's spectacular. Um, our industry is a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous amount of things. And
Yes.
then I know I just criticized it for a complete lack of diversity, and which is true. But if you had to 86 something from the industry, what could we use less of in our food service industry in Canada? What would you change?
Wow. Probably just I'll encompass it all in a group. We should just call it shite attitudes. You could call it ego.
Yeah.
Ego's only bad if it kind of gets in the way of something else. If you've worked very, very hard and attained a level of mastery within your career, I think you should be allowed to throw your weight around a little bit. But that doesn't give you a license to be an asshole. I think really makes a difference. So high level of mastery and skill, education, and knowing what's up, uh, uh, experience. I think that definitely 100% should count for something, and should be respected. But I mean, respect's a two-way street. You can't be a jerk about it, and expect your staff to love you. It's certainly a different industry now, I think, than when I started in it. That seemed to tolerate the bad attitudes,
The toxic,
toxic workplace,
bullying almost.
the chauvinism, the sexism, the racism that used to go on there, and as much as I grew up in a very Anglo white neighborhood, and a lot of the jobs I had were in and around that. I mean, that's just where I grew up. I did not grow up in a melting pot or a cosmopolitan area. I had the attitudes of my, my family, their parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents' parents. You kind of had that attitude, and thankfully I've tried very hard to break that apart for myself. I may fail on occasion, but I hope I don't so much anymore. But thankfully, I've tried to raise my daughters in a household that doesn't tolerate that, and I certainly don't tolerate that in the workplace or with the people that I work with. Some jokes just aren't funny. And that's not right when it demeans or degrades or makes somebody uncomfortable. I think they got to lose the shite attitudes at the top, or collectively when people get into that pack attitude. But I think for the new employees that come in that have that attitude of indifference sometimes, if I've got somebody that comes in late for work, late for a shift, but they're holding a takeout coffee. You came in late, but you had time to stop for a coffee.
Stop at Starbucks, yeah.
Yeah, or they go to a premium. I wasn't going to use a brand name, but they stop at, say, a premium takeout coffee outlet, and they chirp about how they don't make enough money. Well, Scooter, you just paid $12 for your half latte macchiato with a twist, whatever, a shot of this, and extra foam. Like, I'm not hearing what you're saying. I'm not playing the game. I'm not picking up what you're putting down. Like, it's not right for you to be chirping about not having enough money or not getting paid enough when you come in late with an expensive coffee, and then you don't want to pick up extra shifts, and you come in late for the shifts that you come in for. Like, have that make sense in my head.
Makes you wonder. Like, I agree with you. Getting rid of the toxic, and I'll call it masculinity because our industry is full of men. Toxic masculinity, just that shite attitude towards
Yep.
people. Like we all want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of that. I want to see more diversity. I feel like the more diverse of the opinions around the table, the better the outcome.
Yeah.
So I see that. But on the other end of the coin, when we seem to be getting rid of the holding people to account in maybe a too brutal of a way, but like we get people showing up late with their expensive coffees. And I do feel like there has to be a middle ground. Like at what
Yep.
point do we find the middle where your poor behavior on either side of that spectrum just isn't accepted? And when can we get back to just being excellent at what we do, driven by our passions? You and I are good examples of people who our passion is food, but neither of us cook for a living. If I was a better chef, I'd be one. I'm going to be honest with you. I lacked the creativity to be spectacular, and I somehow have the ability to convince people to do other things. So I went with the business route. But I really feel like the industry can use a culture of excellence again.
Yep.
Let's bring it back to the skill. Let's bring it back to the talent. Let's bring it back to the art. And let's respect the voices around the table. Well, Chef, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. For the second episode of the 86 podcast, to be able to capture a guest like you, I feel like you're doing it as a favor to me, but I appreciate it very much to capture you onto the show and give our guests a bit of a thrill here and an understanding of who you are, because everywhere we go, every show we go to, every event, we see you there. Everyone sees you there. You're on social media, you're at the events, whatever. And maybe people just know you as being, David and folks at home, David's like 9 feet tall. Okay. And he's got the biggest hug you've ever received in your life. You know what I mean? Like larger than life personality, great guy to get to know. So go up to Chef David next time you see him and say, "Hey, I saw you on the 86 podcast." Great. Get to know him. He's spectacular and friendly. But we'll leave it on that. And I'm going to say thank you so much for being here. And I love the shirt.
Thanks, man.
Shirt.
Well, if pigs could fly, Rich, if pigs could fly.
For people on Spotify that are listening to this in their cars or wherever, this is I'm guessing blue shirt. This could be one of those blue or white or gold. I'm not sure because of the, thanks to computer screens, with these cute little pink pigs with these white wings flying around the shirt. It's spectacular. I love it. Southern barbecue all the way.
Yes, sir.
All right. Stay on the line. I'm going to end this recording.
All right. Thanks, Richard. Your blessing.
Well, that's it for episode 2 of the 86 podcast. Thanks for listening. Next week, we have Steve McGoey. He's the former executive chef of the Keg Restaurants, and he's going to come on the show and talk about his life experiences and maybe share some details about the Keg. If you like Canadian food service, please be sure to hit the like and share button. Any support you give us means the world. Take care. See you next week.